Ultraman, arguably the most famous of Japan's tokusatsu superheroes, with a franchise spanning for nearly 60 years and across 34 different series and 38 movies. Undoubtedly, Ultraman is among Japan's most well-known sources of kaiju-related media, able to rival the likes of Godzilla and Gamera. Created by Eiji Tsuburaya, the same special effects wizard responsible for Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, and others from Toho's lineup as the flagship series and mascot for his own studio, Tsuburaya Productions. The series began with Ultra Q, an overlooked entry in the Ultra series for not featuring the Ultraman character, but more of an anthology series following the, you know what, hold up here, I can't go on anymore. Hello everybody, I am the Linkzilla, and today I'm bringing you another monstrous moment set forth by the Omni Viewer and others in the Kaiju Tuber community. This is the Star Ultra Edition, meant to commemorate the US release of Shin Ultraman for a limited theatrical run. It's certainly an accomplishment securing such a thing for US-based kaiju fans. Now usually with these monstrous moments, I open the video waxing poetic about what the movement is currently celebrating, and giving a brief history on it before I move on to my intended topic. And that's why I had to stop myself, because to go further would feel dishonest. The truth is, I actually don't know all that much about the Ultraman series. Let's face it, when I was a kid there was very little access to Ultraman-related material actually making it to the States. The first time I got introduced to the concept was when a heavily localized and heavily dubbed 4Kids Ultraman Tiga series premiered on the Fox box. I was interested, but strangely enough I never caught the series when it was on. The closest that I'd get to Ultraman throughout the rest of my childhood would be Jet Jaguar. Apart from that, I still don't know all that much about this series. Don't get me wrong, I have seen a few Ultraman movies, and only had the faintest idea of what was going on, but it wasn't until the introduction of Ultraman Zero and his nemesis Ultraman Bilial that I took greater interest in the series. Nowadays, the consensus is that Zero has effectively usurped the original Ultraman as the face of the Ultra series, and it's easy to see why. Even years after his introductory movies and solo series has ended, Zero has remained surprisingly relevant throughout the show. But still, even as much as I like the addition of Zero and the stories surrounding him against the evil Belial, I still don't know all that much about the franchise. So despite Shin Ultraman's stateside release, I unfortunately don't have much to say in celebration of it. That being said, that isn't to say that there's nothing that I want to talk about. See, just because I don't know much about Ultraman isn't to say that I don't know about the things the series potentially inspired. Of course, there were other costumed kaiju fighting superheroes at the time, like Spectreman, and even Toho would create their own series to rival Ultraman's success with Zone Fighter, the added bonus being that Zone Fighter gets to play with Godzilla. And of course, other Japanese production companies would want to replicate Ultraman's success through their own series that still go on today, particularly with Toei Studios with their series like The Metal Heroes, Kamen Rider, and Super Sentai. Ultraman is technically considered a different genre than these series, but come on, you can't look at these concepts and tell me that somebody wasn't copying someone else's homework. And that brings me to the topic I'd like to discuss today. You guys remember when I mentioned that 4Kids had their own dub of Ultraman Tiga on the Fox box back in the day? Well, I'm not sure how the original Japanese sub of the series was, but looking back on the dub, it's clear that 4Kids wanted to emulate a certain other TV series that was making the rounds at the time.
Looks like my mother-in-law.
You see, back in the 90s, Hayao Saban had the idea of bringing Super Sentai to the West and localizing it for Western audiences, shooting a cast of American actors spliced together with action scenes for the prospective Sentai series. Saban finally got the project approved and was able to secure footage from a more recent dinosaur-themed Sentai series, Jew Ranger. This resulted in a little-known TV show that you might not have heard of, a little something called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Yeah, okay, sarcasm notwithstanding, not many who worked on Power Rangers back in 1992 expected it to actually amount to anything, much less succeed, so it really caught everyone off guard when the series literally became a cultural phenomenon, a veritable juggernaut of children's entertainment. Much like its Sentai counterpart and Ultraman before that, Power Rangers as a franchise has spanned a long lifetime of decades and several series. As of this year, the franchise will be celebrating its 30th anniversary and currently holds a roster of 21 different series across its seasonal run. The franchise has had its highs and lows over the last 3 decades, but has undoubtedly delivered hours of entertainment and fond childhood memories. And yet, across its long history, it seems that the Mighty Morphin era of the franchise is the one most fondly, and sometimes the one only, remembered in popular culture. As the first entry in the entire franchise, the seasons of Mighty Morphin retain that most iconic status, drawing on a firm sense of nostalgia that has effectively cemented this team as the definitive face of the Power Rangers series, to the point of being featured in legacy toys, revival video games, and even original comic series intended to continue the story. As such, I wanted to do this monstrous moment to commemorate that legacy and pay tribute to one of the most impressive moments and one of the most talented performers to ever appear in the series. Now, usually, I try to keep these things related to the topic being celebrated, which is why the first 2 were devoted to Godzilla to celebrate the release of his 2 movies. However, Omni Viewer specifically states that the videos do not have to specifically be in tribute to any specific movie or franchise, just so long as they are in the kaiju genre. Plus, he even said it doesn't have to be a movie and can virtually be anything, so it doesn't have to be Ultraman for me to partake in this video. And while the Rangers themselves aren't giant monsters, they do inevitably end their heroic escapades battling city-stomping kaiju in their giant dino mechs. I think we are fairly well covered in the kaiju subgenre. So, all of that being said, I am the Linkzilla. Join me as I rediscover one of these moments from the Power Rangers franchise, a scene that encapsulates the themes of faith, trust, and friendship from the series, while also paying tribute to one of the series' best characters in one monstrous moment. The moment in question comes from Season 1, Episodes 49 and 50, Return of an Old Friend. And if you're in the know, then you can probably tell where this is going. To make a long story short, it's Parents' Day at the Youth Center, meaning for the first time in the series, the Rangers' parents are featured on screen and gathered together at Ernie's Juice Bar. Not much comes from this, apart from some minor character drama with the reveal that Kimberly's parents are divorced and she's nervous about them being in the same room together. But that plot goes nowhere. The real meat of the duology comes when Rita devises a good idea for once. She sends out the Dramel monster to flood the center with a hypnotic gas, capturing the parents and teleporting them to the dark dimension. Rita is essentially holding the Rangers' parents hostage, ransoming them for the power coins against the threat of killing them. At the same time, Billy gets hypnotized by the gas as well, and Rita uses him to sneak into the command center, disable Alpha, and steal the Dragon Dagger. Because apparently any Ranger can just summon it to them like that. So things are looking bad now, as Rita has the hostages and Goldar has control of the Dragon Zord. After the Rangers fail to defeat Dragon Zord, Goldar delivers the ultimatum, the power coins for their parents' lives. Reluctantly, the Rangers hand over the coins, leaving them powerless, only for Goldar to immediately renege on his deal, claiming that since he's going to destroy the world anyway, it doesn't matter. They certainly can't stop him. The Rangers regroup with Zordon and Alpha at the command center as they contemplate what they can do. Without their power coins, they're powerless to fight against Rita and Goldar, only for Jason to reveal that they still have one coin left, revealing the dragon coin still in his possession. We cut back to the youth center. As the Dramel monster is still burrowing around, a lone figure enters the building, the camera panned on his feet to hide his identity. but anyone who knew this show could immediately tell who this was. Even after nearly 30 years, watching this scene still gives me goosebumps. The way the camera follows him, the only sounds being his footsteps mixed with a snare drum, giving it a kind of military march vibe, until finally panning up to reveal...
Where's everybody?
Go, Green Ranger, go!
Yeah. I'm pretty sure all Power Ranger fans watching this know exactly why I am doing this video at this point. I'm certain it should go without saying, but for the uninitiated who might be in my audience, this is Tommy Oliver, portrayed by Jason David Frank. Tommy was introduced in episode 17 of Power Rangers in a 5-part long mini-arc, Green with Evil, in which he is captured and brainwashed by Rita and given the Dragon Coin to earning him into the Green Ranger. The rest is literally history. The Evil Green Ranger arc is considered one of the best in the series' history, with the Green Ranger providing the team its greatest challenge in the early days of their career. Tommy would be freed and eventually would join the team. Unfortunately, due to the limited Green Ranger footage from Jew Ranger, his Sentai counterpart Burai dying, Tommy's appearances were sparse, and he was mostly used as a trump card when the situation called for it. As for why Jason has Tommy's coin, well, in order to explain the absence of the Green Ranger in the Sentai footage, Tommy lost his powers in episodes 34 and 35, The Green Candle, in which a magic candle literally burns away the Green Ranger powers. To prevent them from falling back into Rita's hands completely, Tommy hands over the coin to Jason, transferring the remaining power to him. The power was protected and granted Jason the ability to use the Dragon Dagger and Dragon Shield. Tommy would of course later go on to become perhaps the most famous Power Ranger of all time, starring in roughly 6 seasons of the show and cameoing in most of the major anniversary specials. Hell, the big 20th anniversary season of the series marketed the finale specifically around him returning as the Green Ranger. And the only thing better than this is knowing that Jason David Frank was always fond of the role, always willing to not only come back to the franchise to play Tommy for anniversary roles, but even willing to appear in several fan projects and conventions as well. Jason David Frank was a guy who appreciated the fan base and following that he had, and always gave his fans the love and respect they deserved. And whenever you saw Jason David Frank, you knew that the content was going to be epic. The series seemed to get the ball rolling on this from very early on, pointing out the fact that not only was Tommy undoubtedly the most powerful of the Rangers, but that his character was arguably the most interesting. It even got to the point where some make the claim that the series became the Tommy Oliver show featuring the Power Rangers. And, like I said, I love the reverence this episode shows to Tommy. He'd long since become a fan favorite by this point, so writing him out of the show and leaving the audience hanging on whether or not he would return was a stroke of genius. And boy howdy did they bring him back in spectacular fashion here. The way the camera lingers on his walk, keeping his face off screen, teasing us just enough until the final reveal, and then it finally hits us with the iconic "Go Green Ranger, Go Go" stinger by Ron Wasserman, the first we hear of it in the entire series. But we'll get more to that later. This was such a big moment to end the first episode on, as it undoubtedly got hype for the second part, and heck, back in the opening of Part 2, Tommy and the Dragon Zord are added back to the show's title sequence, signifying to the audience that this teaser isn't a hollow gesture. Tommy is back. I feel I can avoid talking about it no longer, as most of you have already guessed why I'm using this monstrous moment to talk so much about Tommy. Like so many others, Tommy was always my favorite when I was a kid. He had the coolest costume, the coolest powers, and the coolest Zord. There was also a blending of themes that really spoke to me as a kid. The Dragon Dagger doubles as a flute, which Tommy plays, similar to an ocarina, and the Dragon Zord is basically Mechagodzilla wearing black and gold armor. This character seemed tailor-made specifically for me. As such, I have always loved and admired Tommy's character, as well as followed a lot of Jason David Frank's activity outside of the show, from running his martial arts dojos, his mixed martial arts fighting career, his side projects from comics to fan films, and his relationship with his fans, always promoting a healthy and balanced lifestyle and coming off as a genuine role model. Which is why it came as such a heartbreaking shock to me to learn that Jason David Frank was reported to have died on November 20th, 2022. I was in complete denial for hours on end when I first heard the news and waited for somebody official to come out and reveal that it was all a celebrity death hoax. But when those hours passed, it was instead confirmed by JDF's talent rep, basically his agent, that the rumors were in fact true. And I was absolutely crushed at the realization that Tommy was gone. The circumstances of how he died have not yet officially been revealed, as most news outlets say that he passed on. And considering that he was only 49 years old and lived a very healthy and active lifestyle, the question of his cause of death is certainly pressing on everyone's minds. So far, only one news outlet has stated what it was, which I'm not going to say, mainly due to a mix of the controversial nature of the subject and pure disbelief. But not just disbelief in the news outlet that mentioned it, that being TMZ, but also a disbelief that this would be how Jason David Frank left us. Needless to say, I was devastated at this. You guys may have noticed that my upload schedule slowed and became very sporadic over the last few months since this happened, and that's largely because of this event. I couldn't even look at YouTube without seeing my front page plastered with videos talking about the bad news, and others giving tribute to Jason's time as Tommy. And the more I tried to get back into uploading, the more it just made me sad. I want everyone watching this to know I am not making this video in any way trying to boost my own success by covering Jason's tragic passing, nor would I ever consider doing anything like that. I am making this video because the man genuinely meant something to me. I know that it's a cliche nowadays to claim that some arbitrary thing was your childhood, but Jason David Frank was literally my childhood. He was my hero, and I think that heroes should be honored, which is why I'm going over these episodes. There were definitely many scenes across the franchise that could pay tribute to Tommy, most of which will probably get their own videos. But for me, this monstrous moment would have to go to the point that cemented Tommy as the Rangers and the world's last hope. Alpha teleports Tommy to the command center, where Zordon and the others explain the situation, Jason returning the Dragon Coin. Zordon proposes that the only way to restore the Dragon Coin's powers is to infuse it with his own energy, at great personal risk to himself, as draining too much could destroy Zordon, hence why they didn't try this before. The power transfer is a success and restores the Green Ranger powers, but leaves Zordon in a diminished state. Tommy confronts Goldar, who is currently using the Dragon Zord to attack Angel Grove. This episode definitely showcases why Tommy was so essential for this mission. In the early days of the show, the Rangers had trouble engaging a team of putties while unmorphed. Tommy was the only one to successfully fight them off single-handedly, morphed or not. Although it begs the question of why Goldar is leaving the power coins out in the open here on Earth when he could have easily taken them back to Rita's palace on the moon. Tommy goes against Goldar and the Putties, standing alone as the last hope for humanity against the forces of evil. Although putting up a good fight, it shows him struggling, the power transfer not fully restoring his full strength. Still, Tommy manages to retrieve the Dragon Dagger and reclaims control of the Dragon Zord. Rita is enraged by this prospect and orders that both Goldar and Scorpina attack the Dragon Zord, growing them to their gigantic monster forms. And now, it's time. Tommy controls the Dragon Zord to fight the two monsters, finally seeing unused footage from the original Sentai series and Burai's initial episodes. The Green Ranger theme song plays in full for the first time as Dragon Zord battles Goldar and Scorpina. It's clear that back in Tommy's hands, the Dragon Zord is a much more powerful and capable fighter. He is easily able to keep the two monsters at bay and knock them back, all while their attacks are either deflected or easily bounce off of him. This is a great scene, and it makes expert use of the previously unused Sentai footage, as in the Sentai, this was Dragon Caesar's first appearance and therefore depicted as this unstoppable force that not even Bandora's generals could overcome. All of this culminates in the best moment, where, after being tossed about, Goldar and Scorpina combine their powers to shoot energy blasts at Dragon Zord, but the Dragon Zord keeps coming in an unstoppable charge toward them, indifferent to the explosions, unfazed by the attacks, all while the Green Ranger theme blares defiantly. All of this culminates in a definitive statement that with Tommy at the helm, the Dragon Zord is unbeatable. Unfortunately, the power transfer begins to give out as Zordon orders Tommy be brought back before he disappears. It's clear that the Dragon Zord has won the fight against Goldar and Scorpina. However, a major flaw the scene has is that the fight abruptly ends when Goldar, realizing that dealing with the Dragon Zord, he stupidly left the power coins unguarded. They teleport away as Tommy orders the Dragon Zord out to the wilderness. Tommy manages to recover the power coins before the teleportation and gets infused with the energy barrier protecting them. He makes it back to the command center, unconscious. The mission was a success, but at great cost. The Rangers have their coins back, but Tommy is in a coma. The Rangers then use their own power coins to restore Zordon, which begs the question of why they couldn't lend Tommy some of their power when he initially lost his, but I digress. Zordon advises that if the Rangers can destroy the Dremel monster, then the spell hypnotizing their parents will be broken, and they will be freed from the dark dimension. The Rangers morph and go out and fight it, and almost immediately 4 of the Rangers succumb to the hypnogas and start attacking Kimberly. Meanwhile, Tommy becomes electrically charged with green lightning. Zordon explains his body absorbed the force field Goldar placed around the power coins, and it has restored his powers. The coma was caused by the energy overloading and is now wearing off. Tommy awakens and immediately morphs to go help the others. It's drastic how quickly the tables turned when Tommy emerged on the scene, further cementing his special role in regards to the team. Rita grows the Dremel monster, and the Rangers summon their Zords to fight it. Also, considering how often it gets compared to Mechagodzilla, I really can't help but feel scenes like this are an intentional wink from Toei in Toho's direction. The Rangers initially struggle, with the Dremel able to incapacitate Megazord, requiring a reboot. Tommy commands the Dragon Zord to keep the Rangers covered until Megazord is back on its feet. Yeah, it's clear that in this fight, Dragon Zord was doing most of the legwork. The battle comes to an end when the Rangers form the Mega Dragon Zord and then summon Titanus for the extra firepower of the Ultra Zord. With all 7 Zords combined, they blast Dremel to oblivion. The spell is broken and the hostage parents are returned to the youth center. The Rangers celebrate their victory as well as Tommy's official return as the Green Ranger. Zordon and Alpha admit that the power transfer is only temporary and that during battle his powers could fail at any moment. They will work on ways to restore the power permanently, but in the interim they ask Tommy if he chooses to stay and do duty as a ranger.
Absolutely. It's good to be back with my friends again. even if it's only for a while.
Return of an Old Friend is a spectacular two-parter for the series. It finally fulfills a promise to the fans that after a little bit of time away, Tommy came back and gets to be the Green Ranger again. The team is whole once again, and they've scored a major victory against Rita and her minions. But it comes at an ominous warning that although the Green Ranger is back for now, his powers are only temporary, meaning that one day in the future, they could be gone for good. But for right now, the only thing that matters to the team is that their parents are safe and that Tommy is back. And the series would go on, giving many great moments that follow the exploits of Tommy Oliver as the Green Ranger. And it would soon show that Tommy would continue to be one of the greatest defenders of the Earth, no matter what color he wore. He would certainly earn his legendary title of the greatest Power Ranger of all time throughout his exploits across the series. And it truly began here, when the series began paying proper tribute to the tour de force that was Tommy as the Green Ranger. Unencumbered, unrelenting, uncompromising, and unstoppable. It is for these reasons and others that I chose this to be my one monstrous moment.
One last time.
I hope you all enjoyed this video and share what you think, but we also want to hear from you now. Share your own monstrous moments from the Power Rangers down below, or better yet, make your own videos, exploring which scenes from the franchise speak to you and which truly have merit to be focused on. Other than that, I hope you all have a great day, and let them hear you... Huh? Looks like I'm needed elsewhere. Sorry to cut this here, folks, but duty calls. It's morphin' time! Godzilla! Ah! Alright, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later!